When the Riddler, a sadistic serial killer, begins murdering key political figures in Gotham, Batman is forced to investigate the city's hidden corruption and question his family's involvement. The Batman is up next on Inside Movies. Hey guys, welcome to Inside Movies. We're doing something a little bit new here. We're doing a new movie review, not an old one. Something brand new in theaters right now. Today I'm joined by artist and storyteller John Delaney, novelist Andrew Buckley, GMB CHOMICHUK. He's a writer, illustrator, all-around good dude, and the editor-in-chief of Merc Magazine, writer Murphey. And I'm George Michail. Thanks for joining us on Inside Movies, and let's get into it. Let's get into The Batman. What do we like about this brand new flick?
I've been longing for Batman to be a detective. You know, I've worked on Batman for years, working for DC Comics. Every time that we draw him, he's always thoughtful. I'm always drawing him with the hand on the chin. He's an incredibly introspective, thoughtful character that traditionally has not been shown that way. You know, I love Ben Affleck. I love the way he could kick ass. I love Christian Bale with the tortured soul. All those things are part of Batman. But we finally got a chance for him to be a detective, and we finally got a chance to see Jim Gordon be the John Watson that he is to Batman Sherlock Holmes. And they did it so beautifully, and they gave Jim Gordon a chance to really sort of shine as a character. And of course, Jeffrey Wright just brought everything to that character. And, you know, they had all those beautiful moments where Batman says, "No guns." And he goes, "That's your rule." You know, I've been waiting for that in a Batman movie forever. I've been waiting for the no kill. You know, Christian Bale touched on it, you know, I won't do that sort of thing. And yet several times when he's booting through this thing and he's, you know, landing on buildings, you know, he's killing people, right? But in this film, you had a tortured Bruce Wayne who did not want to kill, who did have all the trauma that came from watching his parents be killed. That all played, and I just absolutely adored the combination of those two characters together. Gordon and Bruce Wayne of Batman were fantastic.
This was probably the first time that I really liked Commissioner Gordon. Like in the previous films with Gary Oldman, yeah, you know, he was kind of like a aw shucks kind of trying to figure it out kind of guy. But this time I could relate to, you know, it's hard to imagine yourself as Batman. I don't know, maybe John can, but I, you know, but Commissioner Gordon is very obtainable. I could be Commissioner Gordon. He's a good man, and he's doing the right thing, and he's doing his best, and you know, but he also had a bit of an edge to him too, and I really liked Jeffrey Wright's performance as Commissioner Gordon.
Go ahead,
Commissioner Gordon being a good man. I think that like there's just like that small line of when, you know, Batman mentions a cop that's dirty. He goes, "He's dirty." Like he's so surprised. He's such a good cop that he expects everyone around him to also be a good cop. And I thought that was such a real moment of just like, like he you know, he really has faith, you know, in the justice system and the system that he works for. That's why he's working so hard for it. The like second scene of Batman walking through all of the police officers to get into the crime scene. Oh, that was so good.
Yeah. Batman as the vampire that they've invited to the crime scene. It also underlines how corrupt the police force would have to be that Jim Gordon inviting a vigilante to the crime scene is not actually all that bad. Like they let it happen. They're like, "Well, you're the one that's going to get in trouble." Nobody is interested in chain of evidence, really. They're just like, well, as long as I don't get in trouble. Right.
That's such a great observation, Greg. That's 100% it. Like the only way Batman works is if everybody else is complicit to it. And they are, because they don't want to rock the boat. It isn't that they accept him. They think he's a freak. They think it's weird and that, but they just don't want to do the work. So they got this one guy who he's not on the payroll, and he's going to go do the work, and he's going to work with this one cop who's always looking over our shoulders. Who's always, you know, now he's distracting because now they got that. Now they get a clean ride, right? And it's so awesome the way they do that. I always find whenever a Batman bit, you know, comes across where you have a couple of young cops who are good cops, you're going, how does this work? How would they accept him? But if the entire police force is corrupt, and like it is, like the way Frank Miller wrote it, and certainly the way that Matt Reeves really ran with it, you know, even the good cops, even the cops who want to do something good, they're attainable. Like you could get to them, but you can't get to Batman, right? And that's what Gordon loves. And it's so awesome. They did such a good job.
Another character that I felt like they reimagined in a way that was more faithful to the comics, but we hadn't seen before, was Alfred. Having his military background as part of the plot, and having him help solve the crimes and the mysteries, was nice to have him be included in a way, as instead of just like the daunting butler or being super old in other takes of it.
I only saw it the one time, so I have to ask, did I miss a line? They seem to suggest that he wasn't the butler, but he was the parents' bodyguard, and he wasn't there that night. That's
yeah. It's Batman Earth One. It's the same thing Jeff Johns wrote, right? This was Thomas Wayne's bodyguard, and he left him in charge of his children, right? So he takes on the mantle of a butler, but you'll notice there's that other woman working in the house who's obviously preparing the meals and all that thing.
Well, and she's a callback to the original Adam West Batman.
She's Aunt Harriet, 100%. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. What I loved was when the cipher comes, Alfred takes the cipher and starts working on it immediately. He doesn't even consult Bruce, and you realize how much of an influence he's had, but he's never been a father. And this is a really, really cool, unique take where Michael Caine played sort of the doting father role. Jeremy Irons played the sort of sarcastic, almost uncle, kind of like, hey, I'm watching out. This is a guy who was put into a situation he didn't ask for and realizes his place in this situation. This is a very, very wealthy family. I don't get to tell him what to do, but what I can try to do is steer him in the right direction. So he's saying, I want to fight crime. I'll teach him how to fight. He's saying, I want to solve crimes. I'll teach him how to think like this, right? So they went back to Alfred's RAF training and the idea that he's a sort of Secret Service guy. And I love the way they did that. And so even though Alfred didn't have a lot to do, you really felt that moment. And when they're in the hospital scene where Alfred looks over and he goes, I couldn't be a father to you. I don't know how to do that. I just thought that was remarkable. It's the first time we'd seen that Bruce didn't really have a father growing up. That plays into the dementia. That plays into, his whole vigilante idea. If he's got a surrogate father that, made everything okay again, why would he go off and train, right? He was raised from 18 years. He loved me like a dad, right? No, you have to have that distance. And that's what Andy Serkis brought to that. And it was wonderful.
And what did we think of the villains? This is a new take on villains. Definitely the Riddler, Penguin, and to an extent Catwoman, as we've never seen them before.
The chase scene with Penguin was one of the best I've seen in film. And the move that Penguin did at the end to cause a massive accident by running a semi to go fully sideways. I thought that was such a good kind of that's really because he's a bad guy, but he's not the bad guy. And I think that was a really good kind of moment of Penguin taking the first step towards being a real villain and not just a guy that hangs out at this dirty club. I loved him, and I'm excited to see where they're going to go with him.
Yeah, no, Colin Farrell, what a transformation.
The best part is how that scene set up the car as a monster in the alley.
Man, that whole sequence, especially watching the second time, when everything kind of shifts to the alley, and then it just fires it up. It was so badass to actually watch that. And I hate it when I saw the initial designs for that car. I'm like, this looks like the stupidest fucking Batmobile I've ever seen. But when you see it in action, man, it was so rocking.
I think that's the best Batmobile case we've had.
All of the scenes where it showed Bruce working on the engine, retooling the engine, it just underlined the idea that he can handle a whole bunch of moving parts. He knows how things fit together. He's literally physically putting the puzzle of this engine together that is for his supercar for when he needs it, as well as putting all these other puzzles together. Is just I thought it was such a great.
He's not infallible because the Batmobile stalls. So he's not perfect.
He just he goes under the bridge and he screws it up. And he bangs and he falls down. Right. I love that stuff. Right.
Oh, and the squirrel suit. He looked. That was another thing of Robert Pattinson's acting with his eyes. He looked terrified. Jumping off of that roof.
Batman scared of heights so much.
That was so awesome. But taking on what Greg said there, I would go one step further. They did so many little bits. Matt Reeves, I mean, I can't, shed enough light on what a great director he is. I saw it in the Planet of the Apes films where, you have this fantastical idea and he focuses on the intimate relationships, between Caesar and his wife, between the people and all that, and I didn't kind of ever see a Planet of the Apes film being that way. They touched on that, but they never deep dived into how important that was. And then to see him do Batman and to see all those little things where you realize that Bruce Wayne has spent no time whatsoever being Bruce Wayne. This is year 2. He's not the playboy. He's not all these things, this act he's created. He is completely dysfunctional as Bruce Wayne. And that's what's bothering Alfred so much. You know, and I love the idea that everything he's been doing, he's been working on this thing. And to have the narration be Bruce, like an out of a Frank Miller Year One or Dark Knight Returns, or it just, every one of those bits were so freaking cool that it made you go, this is a guy who's never actually accepted his parents' death. He's actually quite damaged. And the next part of his life will be slowly developing an alternate personality, which is Bruce Wayne, not Batman. Batman's the real personality. The Bruce Wayne thing is he hasn't worked on it yet. And I thought that was so cool.
You know,
Which
I
they
hadn't
commented
even
on,
thought about
too.
that. That's a really good point. He's only been doing it for 2 years, so like Bruce Wayne has been buried since he started being Batman.
And that's what the Riddler says at the end, right? They have that great scene with the glass between them, and he's like, "This is you. I know that this is actually you." But that characterization, and to credit, I mean, Pattinson gets underrated like crazy because of Twilight, but the dude has some crazy good acting
incredible.
chops.
Yeah.
But the whole characterization of his character, where it is Batman in the second year of, you know, him being this person and playing it's just a good representation of the character at this particular stage of life, where it's all brand new. He hasn't really dealt with it. He's going at everything, fist flying. Someone hits him, he hits harder, and that's why he never says I'm Batman. He says I am vengeance, and that's what everybody calls him all the way through. He is vengeance. He is vengeance, until it gets thrown back in his face at the end, where he hears the villain say it back to him, and then he realization where he's like, holy shit, I have to be more than that.
Well, I think too that scene is about how only villains take revenge.
I think it is.
That's how you define a villain. Is a villain is acting selfishly. Revenge is selfish.
Yeah.
And when he sees that the other people are motivated by revenge, he's like, "Oh shit, yeah, that's right. Revenge is bad."
But he doesn't see it until he hears the exact words, because it happens in the first 15 minutes in the subway, when he's beating the shit out of the guys with the face paint, and the victim is on the floor, and he's like, please don't hurt me.
Don't hurt me. Yeah.
Like he's not seen as theoretically a hero, and he realizes that, I think, at the end, because then he helps save like 100 people and get them out of the stadium, and then he becomes a symbol. Then he realizes that, oh shit, I have to be more than that. I can't just be vengeance. I have to be something else. It's a perfect arc.
On the note of people not respecting Robert Pattinson because of his role in Twilight, I found a really funny comparison in that people didn't like him in Twilight because he was just this dark, brooding, quiet guy who was staring at Bella creepily. And now he's this dark, brooding, quiet guy who's staring down at the city creepily.
Well, staring at Catwoman, staring at the kid quite a lot was a little bit disturbing.
I thought that was such a, like, you know, he's doing it's not that far off as far as a character, but it's so much more fitting now. And obviously the script as a whole and the movie on the whole is so much, everything is better about it. But I just found that comparison of being like kind of similar characters, yet one being really loved by almost everybody and the other one being hated by most people. I thought that was very interesting.
When Batman at the end lights up the flare, it's a sort of illumination, not only for him, but it's an illumination for the entire world to take in Batman. And the first person that reaches up for his hand, he's reaching for the mayor, but the child takes it.
Yeah, the kid.
Right? Yeah. One kid that should be shit scared of this fucking guy with his ears and everything like that, the kid takes it. And so the mayor then takes it, and that's that slow reveal where he's going, okay, I realize that, you know, and Darwin Cook sort of touched on it in The New Frontier, where he went, you know, I started to realize I'm scaring children now. I need to be a hero to children, but scary to the bad guys, right? And he goes through that, you know, and you know, it's no coincidence he's all covered in mud. You know, he's kind of like the phoenix rising, and he's got the ashes on him. And then the next thing you see, he's all cleaned up, and he's going to be Batman, right? But I love the fact that the first one to take his hand was the kid. And he pulls the kid out, and then the mayor, and he's doing all these things. He pulls out the light. Now he's standing on the light. I love that Matt Reeves had him several times in the morning light, where the light's starting to come up. You know, he shouldn't be comfortable here, but first of all, the suit looks fucking amazing in light, which is not something you can say in a lot of the other Batman films. They don't always work in the bright light. That suit looked killer, and I just love that.
And the suit actually looks bulletproof.
It does.
You know,
It
other ones you
totally
kind of
did.
suspend your disbelief. You're like, okay, I guess it's bulletproof. But the weird layering and angling of it, you're like, yeah, a bullet would hit that and ricochet is like clearly the design language they're going for.
And not perfect. I mean, he
I've never
gets the
seen a
shotgun
machine
to
gun
the
hit Batman
chest.
before. That was killer. Sorry,
It's
Andrew.
true, but
Andrew mentioned Riddler. I can't believe we haven't dived more into
Dano,
that
yeah.
yet. But what did you guys think of Paul Dano? I was already really excited for, but I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts.
He's a creepy dude.
Yeah, he's amazing. I
mean,
like to
absolutely
imagine
love
that that's where the twin brother went from There Will Be Blood. Like his lineage moved to Gotham City, and this is his great grandchild of that preacher character from There Will Be Blood. That's how I imagine it.
I think that last scene where he starts crying in Arkham Asylum, and he's cheered up by the Joker, which was killer. I love that. But that he started crying, it was a beautiful moment of sensitivity that the villains of Batman have generally not gotten. They're usually mustache twirling, we're evil, that kind of thing. And you showed a broken man, a broken child who had felt put upon his entire life. It's the two sides of the coin. One of them happened to be wealthy enough to actually take all his anger and put it into being Batman. The other one didn't. So he put all of that anger into revenge in the other way. And when he's broken at the end, he's decimated. He's bawling his eyes out in Arkham Asylum. I'd never seen them do that with a Batman villain before. And all I ever want to do now is draw Batman villains crying. I think it's fucking amazing. Incredible.
I really like that they pointed out that, he was an orphan too, and he grew up in this orphanage that was terrible, and a baby died every winter. And it's like, Jesus, that's rough. And to know that, Bruce Wayne's foundation, or the Wayne Foundation, was partially responsible for that, and the corruption that had happened in the city was responsible for the orphanage being like that. It gives the Riddler a personal connection to Bruce Wayne. And as far as like Paul Dano, just like, I really like the kind of contradicting kind of nature of the softness of him. Like he had like a very soft face, and light, and not greasy hair. It seemed like it was washed and fresh. And he seemed like a very innocent person doing these evil things, and that kind of dichotomy was really cool.
I thought obviously the tip of the hat to the Zodiac Killer was amazing. Him saying Snyderverse, him saying all those things, looking kind of like the Zodiac Killer. I mean, how they got a PG-13 rating when he's taping all these faces up so they can't breathe and they die of asphyxiation is amazing to me. That beautiful bit they did with sort of the 7 rack focus where he's on the long lens and the rack focuses to the dead body after you've seen him killing, thing. How about when he grabs the mayor, the first one, and he fumbles onto the ground? So he's not some serial killer that's like completely in control. He actually falls over and he gets up and he has to scramble over. And like they did so many things that showed how inept he was at that, but was so intelligent, just not good physically. And I just absolutely love the way they did that, because so often they try to portray the Batman villains as almost an equal. Like, Heath Ledger is stabbing Batman with a blade and he's not afraid of him in any way, shape, or form, which you would be. You would be afraid of a guy who's built like that and he's, tall and, kicking ass and that. And Paul Dano played it beautifully that way, where it was kind of like there was a certain fear there, but he also had a certain level of like righteous indignation that really worked.
It's such a varied performance where the character truly believed what he was doing, and in everything that he did, every single step of the way, that he was doing exactly what needed to be done. And even when it's in the videos that he does, where it's super creepy and the psychopath side of it, but then also when it's the last video where he's talking to like his followers, and he's like, "Hi guys, thanks so much. We finally got to this point." And then it cuts to him being caught and behind the glass and him having that conversation where he's like, "Bruce Wayne," and it's such a nice piece until he gets so disappointed when he realizes that Batman actually is not on his side, and he's like, "This is not going like I thought it was gonna go." It's just so wonderfully all over the place.
Never meet your heroes, Andrew.
Never meet your heroes.
So Batman is an awesome hero, but another awesome hero is Deathrage, and there's a Kickstarter for it right now. And I'm wondering if Murphy, you can tell us a little bit about your new project.
I would love to. Deathrage number 4, Subsequence, is on Kickstarter right now. It ends on March 25th at 4:00. This is the 4th installment in the origin story of Deathrage. He is one of the first mercs in the world of the Merc universe. He has partnered up with this character Firekiss, who is a vigilante, and she's been a vigilante since she was a teenager, when she found out she has fire powers. And in this issue, you're going to find out how she has powers, where she came from, and kind of more about like this world's like mutant type people. So check out Deathrage #4 on Kickstarter, ending March 25th. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Favorite thing about this movie seemed like a continuation of one of my favorite Gotham City related comic book series and graphic novels by Ed Brubaker and Michael Lark, Gotham Central, where it's just gritty street level policing in a city with psychopaths who are Batman's villains. And I felt like I got to watch a new season of this amazing graphic novel. I don't know what you guys like, but I actually like it when there's less Batman and more Gotham, so that he feels like a force to be reckoned with in the cosmology of Gotham City. And they kind of cut that balance. And my absolute favorite scene in the movie, bar none, there's no Batman in it. There's just the Batman you imagine in the dark corridors as the bat signal has been lit, and you realize everyone is now afraid of the dark who lives in Gotham City whenever they see that.
Yeah. That opening was so beautiful, though. Like when the kid who robbed the store just slowly backs away and then gets hit by a car as a consequence, and then the people who are spray painting the bank.
That's karma, by the way.
Very funny. And then the can rolls away, and you're just waiting. Is he going to come out of this one? Is he going to come out of this one? But then when he finally does come out of the subway door, it's so much more effective because it's just had that wonderful like 1-2 build up.
It's funny. I've had this conversation at Comic-Cons multiple times. People go, "Who's your favorite character?" I say Superman. And they go, "Well, Batman's so much more relatable." I go, "Is he? Is he really? Because Superman's got a boss, Batman's got a butler. How much more relatable is Batman?" Really, you know, like, yeah, Superman's got powers, but he's a guy who takes shit every single day just to do the right thing. Batman doesn't even listen. He just makes decisions. And Catwoman points that out in such a beautiful way. Like, and the way that Catwoman is portrayed in this, and, you know, all the multifacetedness, the idea that she's part of Carmine Falcone's family, and that, you know, basically he was with her mother, and that she has a revenge fantasy of her own, and that she's built her entire life to, you know, kind of exact that revenge, is so clever. And, you know, again, you know, I know we can point to Batman Year One, but he really took it way beyond that and made it so much more interesting.
One of my favorite scenes in the whole movie is when Batman recruits Selena Kyle to go undercover at Club 44. I think it was called, and she's wearing the contacts.
40 Below, because it's Penguin's Club, right? So
yes.
Absolutely.
I was just so dialed into that scene, and I really like the kind of unpredictableness of it. Is like, is she going to get busted? And when he's staring into her eyes, and you think, oh, they're having a moment there, but he's just checking to make sure the contact lens is on properly, and then just their banter back and forth, and really like establishing that Catwoman isn't doing this for Batman. She's doing this for herself, and this relationship like playing out until she ultimately like throws the contact out is
well, also she's not doing it for herself. She's got her own mission that just happens to be involved in his mission. So she's not helping him to help Batman. She's helping him to get her own answers. And I thought that was a really great way of combining this, like, you know, will they, won't they, but making that like that's the last thing that matters in the relationship between the two of them. I really appreciated that.
A fun element
from both their
of the male gaze looking out through the female gaze and seeing how men look at women through her own eyes. When he makes that comment, like, there's not a lot of eye contact in this club, is there? Is a pretty nice little nod to that power dynamic between the two of them, and like culture in general, I guess.
With that, if you guys don't mind moving into the bad, I really only have one thing, and it's the same thing that everyone hates about the Battle of Winterfell. It was so dark so often that I felt like, especially the first like half hour of the movie, I was like, like squinting, trying to see. And I understand that, I understand that they want it to be, it's dark, it's night, it's all of that. It's the same thing in Batman Begins. It's just, there's sometimes you don't need to make your movie as dark as it actually is in the scene that you're creating, because you want, like, there's times that I felt like I wasn't getting the full effect of it. And maybe this is something that on a second or third watch, it might not be as bad. Maybe it's because it's a first watch through thing. But there was, especially in the first half, it was incredibly dark.
That's funny because I love that. I love it when I have to squint in the movie and be like, can I really see that, or am I imagining it? That's my favorite. It's the horror movie quality of like really cheap horror movies where they just make it so dark. And then when Batman shows up, he's so expensive looking that you're like, oh, you're right. This is not a cheap movie.
Selena Kyle, again, if we can get back to Catwoman for a moment, she walks like a cat. She moves like a cat. Everything that Zoe Kravitz did was absolutely remarkable. She would walk like this, moving her shoulders, and you're going like, oh my God, it looks like the way a cat walks. Like, like she just had it so
I
down.
thought that was the one, I put that in the bad category. I was like, okay, cat lady, I think you're going a little, like, was she feeling like not cat enough once she met Batman? And then she's like really putting it on, like, okay, do you get it? I'm a cat lady. Do you get it?
Or maybe it was the moment she met Batman and he said something about her cats. She was like, okay, he's a bat. I'm a cat. Yeah. And then from that moment, that was when Catwoman was born.
It could be, but I sort of saw it throughout the film. I just love her choice. Like when Batman rescues her from Carmine Falcone and she jumps back and she lands in a cat pose. I went, oh my God, that's so freaking cool.
It was great. Like, she was great, but I just felt like, her theme was a little bit it was the part that felt the most like a cartoon.
What I did make a note of both times I watched the movie was that Catwoman is slightly abusive to cats, because when she leaves, she takes one cat, not the rest of her cats, and then she puts it in the storage box on her bike.
Yeah, she's
that
not
cat's
very
going to be dead by the time she gets to Bloodhaven. That cat's dead. She killed that cat. Another point I had was that, I mean, to John's earlier point, it's cool to see Batman as a detective. I will argue that he solves absolutely nothing in time. Throughout the entire movie, he never gets to it in time.
Also, it seemed
like I felt that was realistic.
He'd read the riddle and then just know the answer.
That was the other point I had, was that
that was like, well, it doesn't seem like.
But haven't you guys? Most of those riddles were riddles we've heard before. It was almost like no one in the police department had ever read a riddle book either, which kind of surprised me. Right?
But the second one, Gordon gets with them. Like they work it together, and they they woodshed it.
One thing that's going to really hurt the rewatchability for me, and you guys probably already know what I'm going to say, it's so long. It's 3 hours. It's a lot. I liked it. This is probably my favorite Batman movie ever. Like, I really liked the movie, but am I going to watch it again and again and again? Yeah, but it's going to be hard.
I've watched 3 hours, 4 hour. I've watched it 8 times. If I love a movie, I
Justice League 8 times.
I did have it on my list.
I might even watch it 9 tonight. I don't even know. I don't know. There might be another watching.
It sadly did. I had the same nitpick on mine where I was like 3 hours, and I've seen it twice in the theater, and I'll watch it again when it streams. But
that's my thing. I'll stream it, but sitting in the theater, it was one of those. I was enjoying it so much that I like needed to go to the bathroom, and I'm like, no, I'm not leaving.
And the second time I felt comfortable because I knew where to go to the bathroom, where it didn't bother me as much, so it was okay. But the fact is, I did on the second watch, because I was like, holy shit, I'm going to sit through this 3 hour thing again. I was kind of watching for where you can actually get rid of stuff. It'd be a hard movie to take something out of, because he makes use of every damn frame. So
I do agree.
It'd be tricky.
I'm curious if I'll be able to watch it again, because there's no more surprises left. It's dripping in style. So I'm looking forward to see if the style will carry me through knowing all the riddles and knowing all the twists, and there's no more surprises left really in the film. Right. So it better be entertaining. Like there's a lot of thrillers, and film noir kind of suffers from this in general, that once you've seen it once, everything that builds tension is in the not knowing. Yeah. And so once it's revealed, it kind of loses its power. And this is definitely a neo-noir Batman.
There's another film noir with Robert Pattinson called The Lighthouse. That is an incredible film. I never want to watch that again. I loved it. I could never sit through it again. And I don't think that this is that I mean, obviously it's not that level. That is a whole other genre. But I think this is a movie that I'll watch maybe once or twice, at least more in the coming year once it's streaming, and then I think I'll come back to it.
I could not suspend my disbelief at all. And that's when the bomb goes off in Batman's face. And then the next time we see his face, he doesn't even have a singe. Like on the open cowl, a firebomb goes off literally in his face. You see in the frame his head be knocked back by the concussive force of the blast, but not even a blister.
Let's get into the skinny. Let's give our final grades for The Batman. I'll go first. I'll give it a A+. I loved it. It was great. My nitpicks, like the length, and also Robert Pattinson's kind of skinny to be Batman. He's not who I think of as Batman, but it was
That's
awesome.
hurtful, George. That's hurtful. To live men everywhere, I feel attacked.
You can't be Batman, Greg.
If I had a bulletproof armor, I could fight some crime.
There you go.
Late fees, perhaps, of some sort.
I felt like it was a comic book come to life, I loved it. I felt immersed in the world of Gotham City, and I'm excited to see more adventures of this new Batman.
Like, I just loved, the minute he started talking in the opening sequence, I just went, oh, we're going to get Batman narrating his story. Wonderful. It's a Sherlock Holmes story. And again, Jim Gordon is Watson, the two of them solving a crime together. He's not some, bumbling fool that waits for Batman to fix everything. He is a cop out there making his own decisions, and they're partners. Loved it.
But what's your grade, John?
Hearts.
Oh, that plus, A+, fuck, A+. You know what? Can we add 2 more pluses? Boom, boom. There it is.
I'm gonna give it. It's the 10%. So it's in the top 10 percentile of movie incomes, meaning 90. I really liked it. It's not.
I was told there'd be no math.
Not my favorite Batman movie, but it's a really, really great movie. So 90.
I give it 5 out of 5 blown up Alfreds. On the Batman movie scale, definitely the best blowing up of Alfred in any film that we have seen so far. But as a Batman film, it is superb. As a detective film, it's maybe a B+. As a emo music video, I would give it an A+. So
it gets 12 screaming 12-year-olds.
That's right. Context really matters with this film, but I think they did a great job. The whole team just worked so hard to make something that we've never seen before.
Yeah, A+. It was a great compilation. They took stuff from Year One, from Long Halloween, like John said, No Man's Land, and Hush, and it was.
And the end of V for Vendetta. Beautiful. They folded in all the good things.
They did.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful piece of filmmaking.
Right, so that's going to do it for another episode of Inside Movies. If you like this kind of content, make sure you're subscribing to this channel. We got lots of cool movie reviews and more coming. Deathrage is available on Kickstarter right now. There's a link to the video or to the Kickstarter in the description of this video. So click that link and go check out Murphy's awesome new Merc Publishing world. I've been George Michail, joined by John Delaney, Andrew Buckley, GMB CHOMICHUK, and Murphy. Follow along on all our adventures on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. Links to all those in the description of this video as well. Until next time, peace.